Battery replacement is commonly treated as a routine response to power loss. Across vehicles, tools, electronics, and household devices, reduced battery performance is typically interpreted as a terminal condition. The assumed next step is removal and replacement. This behavior is not usually questioned. It is reinforced by retail availability, manufacturer guidance, and the absence of visible alternatives in everyday contexts. Over time, replacement has shifted from being one option among many to becoming the default interpretation of battery decline. As a result, battery failure is widely perceived as a binary state, functional or unusable. When batteries begin to perform inconsistently, users generally respond in predictable ways. Devices are charged more frequently, usage is adjusted. In some cases, temporary workarounds are applied, such as jump-starting or swapping batteries between devices. These attempts are typically short-term and situational. They are not framed as part of a broader system of battery management, but rather as interim measures before replacement. Once these efforts no longer appear effective, the decision to replace is usually made without further analysis. At that point, the battery is removed from use and either stored, discarded, or recycled. This pattern is not driven solely by convenience. It is reinforced by structural factors. Modern battery systems are largely opaque to end users. Diagnostic information is limited. Performance degradation is gradual and non-specific. Most consumer-facing indicators provide minimal insight beyond basic charge levels. In parallel, technical literacy around battery behavior has declined. Knowledge that was once common, particularly around maintenance, variability, and lifespan extension, has largely disappeared from general use. This creates a gap between battery behavior and user interpretation. Without tools or frameworks to interpret degradation, replacement becomes the simplest conclusion. Despite the dominance of replacement, alternative approaches to battery handling do exist. In industrial, commercial, and off-grid environments, batteries are often treated as serviceable systems rather than disposable components. In these contexts, performance loss is evaluated, categorized, and addressed through standardized processes. These approaches are not typically visible at the consumer level. They operate outside mainstream retail channels and are rarely discussed in everyday device ownership. As a result, many users are unaware that battery management can exist beyond the replace or discard model. In response to this gap, various structured resources have emerged over time. These are not consumer electronics products, but informational systems designed to document alternative battery handling methods. Such programs generally compile existing technical practices into accessible formats. They function as references rather than tools, offering structured explanations rather than automated solutions. Within the broader landscape, these resources represent one way the replacement default is being questioned, not through persuasion, but through documentation of existing methods that operate outside common consumer behavior. Battery replacement has become normalized not because it is the only possible response, but because it is the most visible and least cognitively demanding one. The systems surrounding batteries, manufacturing, retail, disposal, and information collectively reinforce this behavior. Over time, this has shaped expectations about how battery decline should be handled. Whether this model remains dominant depends less on individual decisions and more on which frameworks remain accessible. As long as replacement is the only widely recognized path, it will continue to define how battery failure is understood. The question is not whether alternatives exist, but why they remain outside everyday awareness.